Star Citizen will never be finished, but not for the reasons that you might think. Star Citizen has been in development for almost 12 years now, and a ton of tools have been developed to allow for rapid expansion. If CIG is successful in pulling off their ambitious vision of this game, it will put AAA developers to shame, let alone that one clown that claimed that this was a quadruple A game. I have followed this project since it began, and there have been many ups and downs with it. But regardless of those ups and downs, will the game ever be finished, or will it join the likes of the day before and go down in the blazing glory of a dumpster fire? In today's video, we'll discuss why I and many others that I've talked to believe that Star Citizen will never be finished, and CIG will always constantly be trying to bring more players to the game. In order to understand why, we'll drop you off at the beginning of the story. But first, if you love the idea of exploring space, hit that like button, and be sure to share your thoughts in the comments on Star Citizen's future. Your engagement with the channel helps us to gauge your interest in all things Star Citizen. And don't forget to subscribe for more clear, concise, and up-to-date content on Star Citizen and Sim Gear reviews. Together, let's explore the verse. Nearly 12 years ago, while you were slaying the Covenant in Halo 4, saving the galaxy by destroying the Reapers in Mass Effect 3, and fighting demonic forces in Diablo 3, the world of gaming was doing pretty well. But something was missing for some. While there were many great games out there, there were also games that felt rushed, unfinished, and purely focused on profit margins. And that's when Chris Roberts, a man of big ideas, began pitching his plans and promises of a bigger future for space simulators with Star Citizen. This ambitious game, which began as a single-player campaign, was said to be the spiritual successor of Wing Commander 3 and the continuation of his legacy, with countless old-school gamers remembering the glory days of playing Wing Commander and Freelancer flocking to both the original RSI website and the Kickstarter that started it all. Chris Roberts wanted to build a realistic and fun space combat game without the risk of a publisher breathing down his neck to rush the release of what would be his dream game, a game that he would want to play. To no surprise, thousands of gamers who shared his dream and vision of playing in an immersive world and recollecting their childhood, or for some their early adult years, of flying a fighter in space and destroying alien attackers, chose to back his project. Star Citizen was going to be the game that recaptured those familiar memories and gave new ones. It was a story that many people, including myself, wanted. And so the journey of Star Citizen began. With each day and each week that passed, overwhelming funding and support flooded into the world that Chris Roberts desired to build. The journey and the hype train began as the project grew and each stretch goal was reached, and each level adding more and more to this already ambitious game. It wasn't until the project raised $5 million that the idea of Star Citizen changed to become an MMO. And so Squadron 42 and Star Citizen became two separate projects in their own ways, with the former being the game that would be released first. Now you may be asking, why does this all matter? I promise I'm getting to that, and I will explain why the game will never be finished. With the release of the Hangar module in August of 2013, players could finally climb into their ships they paid for with a crisp 50, a cool 100, a few hundred, and even in some rare cases, thousands. This launched many players into the verse and sparked the dream to be even bigger than before. With patches and little tiny features being released every month, sometimes multiple times, and constant development updates showing off the Arena Commander module, players became more anxious to fly their ships out of the hangar and around space. In June of 2014, Arena Commander would finally launch, giving many the chance to race against others, fight Vandal and pirates, free fly, and go head-to-head against each other in 2 of the 3 released maps. And while it wasn't perfect, it was an amazing experience for those that were part of this incredible journey, and brought many more to the pre-alpha. And while pre-alpha, in some ways the experience was more stable and had fewer bugs than much of what we currently have. But for the backers and the developers, it meant very few of the features were in that needed to be. Over the next year and a half following the launch of Arena Commander, many new ships became flyable and many patches were released with tons of changes to the module. With December of 2015 coming to a close, the game entered its first alpha stage with the release of 2.0, giving access to the system around Crusader and its moon and allowing players to quantum travel and complete missions in the surrounding area. This release also added the social module that gave players access to the landing zone of Area 18 and to see what the game may look like one day. However, these modules were separated by loading screens and not seamless. Fast forwarding to a full 2 years later, Alpha 3.0 was released. This was the first time that showcased seamlessly traveling throughout space to the surface and enabled players to land on the moons of Selen, Daymar, and Yela, and added even more missions than before and many points of interest. For many, the dream of Star Citizen was now even bigger than before, and gave many people hope after a few years of waiting for something more. With Hurston, the very first planet, opening up even more playable areas of the game almost a year later. As the years went on and more releases came, adding more planets, locations, ships, and features to the game, many began to wonder how much longer it would take to see the game they have waited for years to expand exponentially. People and features changed, and many began to wonder if they would ever see it. Throughout the history of the project were plenty of letters directly from Chris Roberts about his hopes for the future, his explanations of why Squadron 42 or other major Star Citizens were ultimately delayed or weren't out yet, and his overall vision for the following year, combined with the many ship sales that often felt like a backhand to many backers. Things began to look grim, with the funding somehow not slowing down at all. With the release of Alpha 3.18, the game was at an all-time low, with the release of persistent entity streaming, making the game largely unplayable for months. At this point, the game needed something to revitalize players and give them a hope in the future of a game that many were still enjoying despite the bugs, issues with in-game events disguised as ship sales, the lack of updates to old features, and the constant promise of everything being soon. Will it ever be finished? CitizenCon 2023 is when things truly began to have a different vibe. With upcoming features, new ships, and new locations being shown, this really didn't change much for most of us. For me, it wasn't until the demo for server meshing that I really got excited, and many others within the community felt the same way. And when the final announcement that Squadron 42 was feature complete, it made me a little emotional to think Squadron 42 would actually be released, and Star Citizen would begin to see development for what has been many backers' most anticipated game be ramped up drastically and begin seeing massive changes and updates. With recent tests of the replication layer being successful, Star Citizen passed a major milestone, with server meshing adding hundreds of players on one server, and being able to jump from Pyro to Stanton, combined with the upcoming server meshing test that will divide Stanton into multiple servers, with players potentially being able to seamlessly transition to another server, and us being able to witness how well server meshing works. The game is beginning to feel like a reality. And with Alpha 3.23 bringing tons of features and updates that have been needed for years, it will make it one of the biggest patches of all time. With the upcoming server meshing test meaning a lot for the future of the game, the big question surrounds this will be, how many players could we see in Stanton? As it stands now, we know that the server can handle up to 200, twice what we currently have in the PU. But could we see more than that? Could we see 1,000? What are your thoughts on the server capacity that you think we could see? Let me know in the comments below. There have been many letters released from Chris Roberts over the years, and they've often felt the same way. However, the most recent letter from the chairman felt different. It seemed to really show a desire to push the game to a more complete state with the goal of Star Citizen 1.0, the version of the game that would be representative of a commercial release. It would mean that the game is stable, polished, welcoming to new players with enough gameplay and content that would keep players engaged. And this is why the game will never be finished. Star Citizen 1.0 will have to deliver a minimum of 5 systems and many more features in order to consider the game a commercial release. Detox recently did an amazing video of all the features needed for 1.0, and I have to say that I completely agree with his list, and I encourage you to check out his video in the description below after this video. But Star Citizen will never be finished because there are a ton more features and over 95 other solar systems, countless landing zones, and millions of points of interest that CIG will be developing and adding to the game for many years to come. And as the past is a clear indication of their unwillingness to give up, even in the face of adversity, the developers will constantly be focusing on the next task in order to make the game not only the best damn space sim of all time, but one of the best MMO games to ever exist. This means that the game will be 100% a live service and have a consistent flow of updates to it. One of my biggest questions is, how will they continue to fund the game? As we all know, ship sales are a point of contention, as well as subscription models. I honestly don't know the answer to that, and I doubt CIG knows the answer. But ship sales often hurt their image among the community and general population. And if the game is to be successful, some of these questions will need to be answered. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button and let me know in the comments what your must-have list is for Star Citizen 1.0 in order for you to consider a commercial release. Don't forget to join the community by subscribing to this channel, where you'll be provided clear and concise news and updates on Star Citizen and reviews on some of the best gear and peripherals in the sim and gaming market. If you want to join the channel and support the creation of these videos, then consider becoming a member and get special perks such as loyalty badges, priority replies, and more. And if you want more information on how server meshing is a massive leap forward for the game, then you'll want to check out this video. Fly safe, pilots, and I will see you in the next video. Havoc out.